Hello，大家好。其實我唔係好多經驗做直播，所以我唔係好知道我點搞呢個鏡頭。唔好意思啊，可能有啲人話又係美國總統選舉，疲勞轟炸喎，大佬，都係最後今日啫。究竟點可以整 Zoom 得佢好啲呢？我唔知道你聽唔聽到我講嘢咧。啊，得啦，點解 outflow 嘅？唔好意思啊，唯有咁啦，冇辦法啦。OK， 我自己就啦。嗱，奇怪啊，咁樣啦，希望好啲。嗱，我而家咧就係睇緊 CNN。哎呀，睇到我啲 file 添，係啦 CNN。咁咧就我講過啦，喺一個禮拜之前咧，我喺 Facebook 嗰陣時候咧，我就話計到咧，就因為呢一個嘅東風效應，咁所以今日咧應該係5點至7點呢段時間咧就會有一個大逆轉嘅。咁而家你見到咧，我就係加拿大5點嘅時間，咁但係因為美國咧就好大嘅，你會見到咧，其實而家咧佢有啲州份係已經6點半啦，6點半，咁但係有啲咧就仲係同加拿大時間差唔多，咁咧就所以咧喺大概美國真係5點嘅時間啦。嗱，而家你見到5點嘅時間咧，真係佢開始反超前。而家你見到啦，Democrats 嗰邊咧就係28啦，咁Republicans 嗰啲係38，開始超前啦。咁其實就係喺接近，因為美國咁大咧，即係由東邊咧去到西邊咧係相差成3至4個鐘嘅，咁所以咧。喺中間5點鐘嗰段時間咧，真係如我所計一樣咧，佢開始超前啦，開始超前。咁你會見到呢度咧，呢個 House 嗰度咧，直情已經開始有3個啦，有3個，係啦。咁而家咧。咁佢哋就不斷喺度播放啦。咁但係咧，大家都知道 CNN 咧係撐Camilla 嗰邊嘅，所以就算而家超前咧，你會見到下面嗰啲 news 咧，佢都不斷係咁係講一啲民主黨比較好嘅消息。咁依然係即係話3分鐘前啊。Harris makes final election day push in the last hours of the campaign on， 即係咧不斷好多消息咧，其實都係講 Harris 嗰邊嘅喎，係啦。同埋咧，我發覺好多網絡上面咧，當你打美國總統大選嘅時候咧，佢係先跳咗何錦麗嘅名先嘅。好，咁而家咧就我哋一陣又睇下唔同嘅。係啦，嗱，而家你見到咧，對唔住啊，因為我 CNN sorry， 我直播冇乜經驗啊，同埋我啲器材比較差，比較窮啊。嗱，你見到咧，其實已經咧美國咧 CNN 嗰邊咧就係唔同嘅州份有啲去到3點58分下晝，有啲係已經去到6點58分啦。咁所以咧，其實就係、所以其實咧就係真係咧如我所計一樣咧，喺下晝美國中間5點嗰段時間咧，佢開始超前啦。咁嚟緊咧呢個零鐘頭，我希望可以做到直播去見證我係咪真係計得啱啦？咁當然啦，其實 課我咧，我又唔係話好需要同咩人交代，我又唔係咩師傅，係咪？我只不過係學習當中，係啦。咁而家你見到咧就個數字咧，頭先我睇到啲數字咧就係Donald Trump 嗰邊咧係60幾個%添㗎。咁因為其實而家咧最緊要就係嗰個7大搖擺州啦。而家我哋睇睇 CNN 嗰邊。
All right, and we are just moments away from the first big round of poll closings. Voting's about to end in 6 states, 6 with a total of 60 electoral votes at stake. Keep an eye on the pivotal battleground of Georgia, as most voting is ending there right now. And CNN can bring you a projection now. CNN projects that Kentucky goes to Donald Trump. Donald Trump will win the Commonwealth of Kentucky with its 8 electoral votes. And CNN can also project that Vermont will go to Kamala Harris with its 3 electoral votes. Kamala Harris wins the state of Vermont. It is too early to project in Georgia, Indiana, South Carolina, and Virginia. Let's take a look at the electoral map now to see where the candidates stand. 270 electoral votes are needed to win. Donald Trump has 8. Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes. Let's bring you a key race alert now. Indiana. Donald Trump in the lead there with 60.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 38.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has an 86,829 vote lead. That's with an estimated 13% of the vote in. Let's go to John King now at the Magic Wall. John?
And so, Jake, now we wait, right? You have the states that we've projected, Kentucky and Vermont. Those are the ones you expect. But so what are you going to get here? You see some first votes in Florida. Look at that. Let's just take it out. Okay, it's just south here. It's in Osceola County, just south of Orlando. We like to look at votes when they come in, right? Florida tends to be a reliably red state. Again, though, be a test of whether Harris can improve their standing in the suburbs, or put it this way, whether Trump can improve his standings in the suburbs, whether Trump's collapse in the suburbs continues. First votes in Florida, always interesting to take a look. But what we're waiting for is the battleground just north of Florida, which will be essential in this race. Again, Vice President's easiest path is those blue wall states, but Georgia as a competitive state, what are we looking for?
係啦，而家咧我哋咧就會睇到咧，由東邊開始啦，因為東邊嘅時間咧係早啲嘅，咁所以咧佢比較多啲有結果啦，同埋咧東邊咧其實好重要啊！大家都知道東邊即係東北偏東咧就係呢一個賓州啦，咁咧就我又長氣啲講多次啦嚇，我大概1個禮拜之前咧喺 Facebook post 過咧就計到咧。應該咧由5點至7點嗰段時間最逆轉嘅，咁咧就似乎都計得啱咗，就係由呢一個嘅係啦，由呢一個嘅美國中部5點鐘開始咧，就 Donald Trump 開始超前啦。咁咧就嗰陣時我講過咧，其實本身東北偏東南偏東咧係全部係應該係往 Camilla 嘅。咁但係咧就出現咗一個咧東風效應，就係如果 keep 唔到呢個東風咧，就會好似三角嗰段時間咧就係東風突然間逆轉咯。咁由於 Camilla 嘅政策係唔夠明顯啦，咁佢係太注重個人嘅 image building， 但係策略上面咧唔夠即係點講啊？唔夠鮮明。第二樣嘢咧，其實如果喺和平嘅日子咧 ，Camilla 一定贏嘅，因為佢有好多民生嘅福利同埋咧佢就比較溫和。其實 local 嘅白人係好多好中意佢，但係喺亂世特別咧今次咧有呢個中東戰爭，即係俄烏啊，特別以色列啊，呢一啲咁亂嘅情況下面咧，啲人又會覺得咦，似乎揀一隻獅子老虎先至可以面對到其他地方嘅獅子老虎嘅混亂嘅局勢喎。我哋而家唔係要一個好溫和嘅人，咁所以令到啲人咧就偏向咗阿 Trump 啦。咁另外 係啦，同埋佢我講過呢段時間今日咧係特別好夾阿 Trump 嘅佢嘅離運，即係啱啱呢個月。咁啊 Kamala 呢個月特別呢日啊，咁佢係就算佢有3-4個食神祭殺咧，都唔夠，因為佢之前喺月食亦都去咗呢一個嘅邊境嗰度。咁其實呢啲咧都係吹水嘢啦，吹水嘢嘅意思就係咧，本身咧就我哋都科知到美國係必然有一啲嘢發生，而呢一啲嘢發生係造就到係Donald Trump 嘅贏嘅機會大，因為只有 Donald Trump 先至可以咧捱得過將要發生嘅事情。咁所以有少少係真係天意下。咁而家你見到咧 ，Florida 就57.9% 啦。咁頭先咧，好似 Indiana 咧，直情係去到60幾，多咗1倍啊！咁哎呀〜
Right, so you could argue we need to get the final results. You could argue if you want, Donald Trump's a little bit more competitive this time. If that result holds, we'll see how that plays out.
咁有啲即係而家咧由東邊完咗咧，就會開始數票，咁去到中部，咁去到7:08，即係美國7:08，即係大概仲有1-2個鐘頭之後咧，就會去到西邊㗎啦。
But again, you will see are Democrats turning out, right? Are Democrats turning out? There's some, there's been a lot of reporting about this. Harris lose a little tiny bit of the Jewish vote because of the Israel, unhappiness over Israel Gaza and how she has talked about that in the White House. You'll see a little bit of that down here. It's more important when you get to suburban Philadelphia and some of it out in the Detroit area as well, around Metro. So you might get some clues out of Florida. My expectation is that Florida will stay that color, but
我真係計到，真係時間冇錯喎，5點7點，由5點開始。頭先咧，我哋啱開始，哎呦！
You have the governor's. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be.
No, it's all right. If you want to look, there we go. Yes, that's the Rubio race. We got to come to governor. Yes, he won.
我覺得我嗰張會係史上最搞笑嘅直播咯。嗱，咁先真實啊嘛，又冇剪輯，又冇成，又冇做嘛，係咪啊？我哋而家好多好少真嘢㗎啦，全部 AI， 大家享受下呢一啲蝦碌嘅真嘢啦。過多幾年之後冇㗎啦。嗱，咁頭先我哋開始直播嘅時候咧，就係我推翻前啲先。開始直播嘅時候咧，嗰個 House Republicans 係佔3個，而家已經6個啦嚇，去到呢度就為之 win 啦。嗱，睇下呢個 President 已經係8啦，係嘛？
Because this is what we're worried about tonight. Indeed. David Chalian has more exit polling from north of Florida and Georgia, the battleground that we're watching right now. David, how is the vote splitting among key groups of Georgia voters?
Yeah, now that the polls have closed, Jake, we can look at some of those key demographics. So let's take a look at the African-American vote in Georgia. It's making up 30% of the electorate.
Harris 有86% 喎。
Harris obviously winning it big, 86% to 12%. But I want to note here that 86% number. 4 years ago, Joe Biden had 88%.
係啊，今次咧疲勞轟炸，直接直播個零鐘頭。下次咧就等又係4年之後，4年之後可能我冇興趣呢樣嘢去做預測或者計數㗎啦。
Look at younger voters under the age of 30. Harris is winning them. They make up 18% of the electorate. Harris is winning them 60% to 39%. She is doing better with young voters in Georgia than Joe Biden was doing against Trump 4 years ago. Trump got 43% of the youth vote in Georgia 4 years ago. He's down to 39% now.
咁我哋又喺呢段時間咧，又同大家吹下水啦，講下呢啲中國天文地理學啦。今日咧我就喺 Facebook 嗰度咧就睇到一張相，但係其實呢張相咧又唔係真係好耐嘅，因為我係親眼見到佢起嘅。 咁咧，澳門嘅本土居民咧，就大家都有印象咧，就大概1999年至到2000年嗰段時間，應該1999之前咁上下啦。咁你知道路即係路氹嗰度咧，都仲係一片沼澤地嚟嘅。嗰陣時候咧，就好多咧，我哋叫紅樹叢，佢係一啲好矮嘅灌木，咁係一大灘嗰啲沼澤地啦。咁咧就有黑臉琵鷺嘅，咁咧黑臉琵鷺係一個受保護嘅動物嘅，咁所以嗰陣時候咧係幾荒蕪嘅。咁我哋去影相咧都係影呢一大片嘅沼澤地，其實就係乜嘢咧？就係由係啦，我都要諗點樣講翻個地理位置。咁嗰陣時候咧就開始咧就見到咧政府咧就因為嗰陣時經濟非常之差，澳門好靜啊。1999回歸之後，咁跟住咧就本土經濟又冇乜太大嘅發展啦咁樣，咁所以咧佢哋無啦啦咧，我哋就見到咧喺呢一個氹仔嘅中間嗰個路段咧，佢冇乜完全冇嘢起喎，但係佢先擺咗12嚿嘅我唔知係咩石啦，應該白色嘅，我又唔可以斷定佢為大理石，亦都唔可以斷定佢係麻石。佢應該係屬於大理石，但係佢係大理石之中咧又唔算係貴嘅白玉啦嚇。咁佢咧就雕刻咗12生肖，咁但係呢12生肖你睇落去咧就好似非常趕工咁樣，非常趕工咧。就係做咗出嚟，咁啊你見到真係老虎啊老虎，兔啊兔，咁但係咧就唔係好 details。咁嗰陣時我哋就覺得已經怪，咁啊乜嘢都唔起，先起呢一個12生肖嘅像咧，咁又唔係起得特別靚。咁但係我哋你知啦，即係澳門政府好叻㗎嘛，咁所以我哋通常呢啲草民咧、平民咧，我哋就冇資格去考量嘅。咁自從佢起咗之後啦，大概2000年至2001年開始咧，突然之間咧，澳門咧感覺好似有好多嘅政策，即都仲係差嘅，但係開始有好多嘅草擬。咁直至到2003年沙士之後咧，咁咧突然之間咧就因為有一啲新嘅政策咧，就中央肯開閘，即係譬如話咧100萬，你買一個100萬嘅物業，你就可以即時可以申請澳門身份證。然之後咧就亦都開始咗，即係2003年開始啦起啦，但係之前已經係開綠燈咧，就係呢一個嘅賭權可以公開化，即係已經唔係咧，就係叫做壟斷啦。由2003年開始咧，就把聲係簡直我哋叫世界10大人為奇蹟。咁澳門突然之間咧，哇！啲樓價開始升上去啦，然之後咧就搏命起賭場啦，咁樣就去到2005年咧，就已經非常之已經開始唔錯啦，可以拯救到之前嘅劣勢。咁所以咧，今日睇翻呢張舊嘅相嘅時候咧，我自己就好深感受嘅。點解咧？好啦，而家我哋又報下啦 ，Republicans 咧有8席啦，咁咧就民主黨有2席啦 ，House 嗰度。咁而呢個 President 嗰度咧就係而家 Donald Trump 咧就係19席 ，Harris 咧就係3席。咁咧 Snakes 咧就係去到39咯喎，39係啦。咁民主黨都係得28喎。好啦，咁嗰陣時候咧，即係我自己就當年我就唔明啦，咁而家我就明啦。咁其實大家咧可能即係當聽古仔咁講啦，咁聽過好多就係中國整個嘅龍脈咧，就係有部分講咧就係先源於昆崙山，但係有部分咧就係講其實已經由黑龍江嗰邊有一道氣嘅，但係主要係講由昆崙山嗰個咧就龍脈一路咧就沿住黃河咁樣又搭住長江咧，最尾咧就係經香港咧嚟到去出大海。所以點解香港過去嗰200年咧，突然之間咧又好似世界奇蹟咁樣咧，就係發展得好快咁樣。咁 其實咧，你想象咧，如果好似一個龍脈咁樣咧，龍嘅頭由香港嗰邊衝出去，係咪？咁但係佢都有4隻爪，即係你游水咧側邊都有浪花噶嘛。其實咧嗰個氣場咧，其實即係佢經深圳啦、香港啱出去，其實咧珠海口都有嘅。咁但係珠海口嗰度去到嗰度咧，其實就已經係差唔多散咗出去。咁所以我估咧，因為你知澳門啦係好多古靈精怪故事噶嘛，所以應該就係咧佢哋揾到一個高人咧，就係喺氹仔呢度起呢12生肖。個目的咧就係將佢嘅支脈啊，即係龍氣嘅支脈咧，就除咗由珠江之後咧引去澳門，由澳門咧再經去氹仔，然之後由路環衝出大海嘅。呢個係一個龍脈嘅支脈。咁你想象好似游水咁樣，即係游水咧，通常咧就係開頭、中段同埋尾噶嘛。你想象如果係真係一個動物一個龍咁樣一開頭一起嗰下咧，就係好犀利嘅。咁而中段咧係亦都係發力嘅。最尾咧就好似你游水咁樣啦。當你潛入海或者潛入水池嘅時候咧，你咪一潛入去嘅時候，你咪吸一大啖氣，咁跟住深呼吸咪潛入去嘅。個大啖氣咧，其實嗰個磁場係好勁嘅，所以咧就可以令到香港咁犀利。咁所以而家咧佢就入去路環之前，嗰個氹仔嘅氣咧，就係俾佢引落嚟之後咧，就好似深深吸一大啖氣咧，就衝去路環。所以氹仔咧把把聲升。咁呢個你係第一個當故仔聽啦。咁所以點解過咗咁多年，嗰12個石像都哇好似格格不入，係咪啊？周圍兩邊搏命起，但係佢完全咧係唔會完全係唔會喐佢啊！極其量咧係清潔佢，但係咧為咗要保護佢咧，又為咗要其實佢唔係咁靚噶嘛。所以咧，你見到裡面兩邊啲花圃咧就起得越嚟越高，但係從來都唔會喐佢嘅。點解咧？係唔喐得嘅。咁咧，因為呢一個咧就係臨尾嘅龍脈所在，即係由整個中國特別而家你知香港啦，即係嗰個好多古靈精怪嘅嘢噶嘛。咁所以其實咧就仲偏向咗澳門嗰邊，俾你引咗出嚟。咁所以其實亦都有一個坊間嘅故事啦，咁就係咧，其實都唔係坊間，都係真實嘅。有一個當年嘅賴布衣啦，賴布衣其實咧，佢周遊列國咧去揾呢啲嘅龍脈嘅時候咧，佢到最後咧，其實佢係去咗澳門嘅氹仔，叫雞頸山，係咪雞頸山？係啦，咁雞頸山嘅位置嗰度有個，佢見到哇呢一個異象啊，直情佢叫異象。於是咧，佢就喺嗰度有一個大石，咁啊雞頸石，我唔知係咪叫雞頸石，總之有個大石，就係真係賴布衣嗰陣時候咧，佢揾到呢一個極其奇怪嘅穴脈，咁佢咧就喺呢個石頭度。咁其實個位置就係咩咧？嗱，你知中國人好重視自己嘅祖先咧葬喺邊度啊？咁所以咧，亦都好多人知道之後咧，就喺氹仔呢度就係嗰個山邊啊，即係機場對上嗰個孝思墓園嗰度咧，嗰度就係一個當年賴布衣停低，你會見到有個大石。咁其實咧，我都想過去，但係我想去嘅時候唔係為咗呢啲嘢，因為嗰陣時候咧，即係揸車咧，成日好中意咧，半夜咧揸車車到上面咧，坐喺度咧就望星星咁樣，係咪好浪漫咧？買罐啤酒，因為嗰陣時可以停低嘅，咁啊停喺路邊咧、山邊咧，咁就一望無際。咁但係如果而家諗翻咧，我就諗下，如果我嗰陣時係賴布衣，我停喺嗰個山頂咧，當你黑埋眼嘅時候咧，你一望下面個海咧，因為賴布衣係好遠古嘅時代嘅人嚟噶嘛，嗰陣時係漁村乜都冇噶嘛。但係如果賴布衣黑埋雙眼，佢突然間見到未來嘅景象，就係見到西方一啲好靚好豪華嘅船入嚟。嗱，無論呢啲外國嘅船，佢喺16浦嗰邊停又好，佢喺西環嗰邊又好，係幾咁奇蹟啊！所以我哋倒數翻以前嘅500年，即係等於賴布衣當時嘅未來啦。 嗱係非常之點解澳門係一個咁奇特？當時咧其實咧無論葡萄牙、西班牙、英國、荷蘭、法國，其實嗰陣時一嚟到亞洲咧係先經澳門嘅。咁第一個捷足先登就係葡國啦，咁然之後先至進入中國嘅明朝。咁所以其實咧呢一個海灣咧係面向國際嘅，好重要。即係咧嗰陣時，賴布衣已經見到500年前開始有外國嘅商船咧進入，而佢哋首先全部咧係會留咗喺澳門。所以點解嗰陣時咧澳門係各大海上霸主嘅必爭之地啦？咁但係到最後咧葡萄牙人就打敗咗西班牙，擊退西班牙，擊退荷蘭人，亦都擊退咗英國，擊退所有嘢。法國嗰陣時都虎視眈眈嘅，擊退咗之後啦，咁就由葡國人嚟到去駐紮喺呢度啦。咁所以其實係幾特別嘅，因為葡國咧佢係點樣上到岸咧，就係用紅包啦，咁然之後咧，佢係用好多人事嘅方法啦，佢唔係用武力嘅。咁但係我頭先所講嘅其他國家，英國咧就係開嗰個戰艦嚟嘅。咁啊，西班牙又係上岸同佢打嘅，荷蘭人咧又係咧上嚟同你打嘅。咁啊退，所以點解會有荷蘭員咧？因為嗰陣時荷蘭兵就係駐紮嗰度。咁咧，如果而家澳門咧，葡京嘅對面咧，嗰個兵營啊，嗰個兵營紅色嘅建築物曾經就係西班牙嘅駐軍。咁所以澳門係真係充滿住歐洲歷史嘅。咁講起荷蘭咧，又有吹水嘢講啦。咁好多人誤會咗喎，佢一見到啊，哇，何鴻燊後生咁靚仔嘅時候咧，個個都以為佢係葡國人，或者係葡國人同中國人嘅 mix。其實咧，何鴻燊咧，佢係嗰陣時嗱，我唔敢肯定，應該就係外國嚟嘅荷蘭人。荷蘭人佢係有猶太裔血統嘅，係啦，就係當年嘅荷蘭猶太裔嚟到，咁但係因為咧就唔能夠留喺澳門，所以佢就留咗喺香港。應該咧就係同香港嘅本土嘅 Chinese 結合咗，所以有呢個 mix。咁所以咧何鴻燊佢正式嚟講係荷蘭裔猶太血統嘅中國香港居民，係啦。咁然之後後期佢揾食就嚟到澳門，就同呢一個澳門嘅第一美人啦，咁佢係一個 Portuguese 啦，就結婚。咁所以點解何鴻燊咁叻咧做生意？因為佢係有猶太人嘅血統㗎。咁啊講笑咁講啦，全世界都話猶太人最叻係做生意，所以唔好誤會啊。所以話佢啲仔仔女女啊、孫啊，全部都好靚啊，係咪？咁咧就係佢係荷蘭裔嘅荷蘭猶太人血統，亦都係叫有 Chinese 嘅血統啦 mix 啦，係咪？咁而家有埋 Portuguese 嘅血統啦，咁樣。咁咧就係啦，所以其實嗰陣時賴布衣見到澳門咧就已經，而且佢停咗喺呢一個嘅氹仔，所以氹仔已經係一個非常之特別嘅地方嚟嘅。咁然之後咧，500年之後啦，咁有埋呢一個12生肖引落嚟嘅咧，就令到澳門嘅呢個氹仔島嘅邊緣咧，就瘋狂起咗呢一啲嘅賭場，亦都係為之世界驚歎啊！竟然一個咁嘅地方可以佔據全世界第二大嘅 GDP， 亦都曾經疫情之後竟然咁快就跳翻上第5大嘅 GDP， 簡直係呢一個人造奇蹟啊！咁我有啲嘢想講，又失咗憶。咁其實咧，各大賭場裡面啲風水陣咧，我一行過一睇咧，其實我已經全部睇穿㗎啦。咁但係你叫我講咧，我就唔係好想講。點解咧？第一，我唔係一個所謂嘅師傅，即係我成日都只係有興趣研究，就因為我覺得呢啲係中國嘅天文地理學。第二就係呢一啲係人哋揾食嘅嘢，係咪先？咁我講咗出嚟無謂點講啊？斷人米路啊！即係又唔關我事，係咪？因為我哋俗稱有句説話咧，就係唔好介意我講得好俗啊！只有強姦沒有逼到嘅，即係賭場成日講呢句説話，就係話賭錢咧，從來都冇人可以逼到你賭嘅啊！ 所以咧，賭錢係你自己真心情願係行入去呢一個賭場裡面，咁所以咧，即係人哋點擺風水陣咧，嗰個特別大堂嗰啲咩陣咧，我就唔講啦嚇，咁留翻正式係呢啲職業嘅人講啦，係咪？咁咧，所以就係啦，賴布衣嗰陣時候咧就睇到氹仔呢個大嘅龍脈啊！我想講就係啦，嗱，其實氹仔個地形咧好接近日本咧一個叫做我唔記得咗啦，我記性唔係咁好，叫咩州啊？係咪？咁嗰陣時候咧就日本咧講喺疫情之前咧，其實就好希望咧就發展賭業嘅。咁但係日本發展賭業咧，其實係好難嘅，因為第一咧，佢哋嘅保護主義係好強。保護主義好強嘅意思咧，就係佢又要咧冧住佢哋本土嘅人啦同埋事啦。第二佢哋咧就非常之好唔合理嘅稅啦，因為佢嘅稅咧就係要，就算你賺唔賺錢，即係佢冇商量嘅，即係佢唔同澳門政府，有啲計有啲位可以傾下，佢唔係嘅。佢話知你咧蝕到執笠咧，佢都逼你有一定嘅稅嘅，即係就算未開業又咩稅又咩稅又管理稅又物業稅又咩稅。咁第三咧就係因為日本本土人咧，其實就好憎賭博嘅，佢好睇唔起賭博嘅，係覺得係一啲下流嘅文化。所以嗰陣時候咧，佢哋揀地方咧係冇辦法揀其他地方，咁佢揀咗一個咧，佢就參考咗澳門咧，就有一個獨立嘅島。嗰個島咧其實本身係冇人住嘅，全部都係咧係嗰啲物流啊，即係啲貨櫃啊。咁而且佢 size 咧真係似氹仔，佢就喺日本咧嗰個環球影城對出，即係如果咧佢駁一條橋，有一條橋嘅，揸車大概10至15分鐘就係出到去㗎啦。唔係揸車唔得，揸車半個鐘頭。但係如果佢嗰啲快嘅 train 咧，即係 high speed 嗰啲咧，就係可以入到去。咁呢個島咧，其實就只係咧貨櫃，咁中間咧就只有一個 7。咁變咗咧就冇民居，唔影響民居。嗱，唔影響民居咧係好緊要嘅。點解澳門咧招待大陸人會好過香港咧？因為大陸人嚟澳門玩咧，主要入賭場。咁咧澳門政府咧就將所有嘅賭場咧就逼晒去主要嘅賭場啦，逼晒氹仔比較偏去路環嗰邊嘅。咁所以就係呢一個12生肖石像嗰個位置。咁以前我頭先講過啦，其實係一片沼澤地嚟㗎嘛，係一個紅樹叢，即係一個好淺沿海嘅地方嚟嘅。咁所以咧，其實最緊要就唔影響民居，咁就好啲。即係雖然大三巴呢啲嘢都逼到爆，但係佢重點都係喺氹仔嗰邊。所以咧，佢要起乜咧，都冇令到本土居民咧係咁憤怒。但係香港唔同，香港佢比較散。去香港玩嘅人咧，其實當年咧就係為咗買嘢、買奶粉啊、買藥啊、買嘢。咁所以咧，佢係直情踩入去香港嘅民居。咁所以佢直情踩去香港民居咧，就造成好大滋擾嘅。因為佢冇一個集中地啊嘛。咁所以咧，參考日本同澳門同香港咧，所以日本就其實諗住咧，就嗰個夢咩島啊，我唔記得咗啦，就喺嗰度咧起一個好似改建，就參考氹仔咧就起個賭城。所以嗰陣時點解咧Lawrence 啦，即係何猷龍咧，就抌咁多錢咧就拓展咧，因為佢係睇好嘅。睇好嘅原因第一就係咧，日本如果去日本玩賭博嘅人咧，可能會更加優勝過澳門。點解咧？因為唔賭錢嘅太太，佢就可以瘋狂喺東京啊、銀座啊 shopping。咁細路咧就可以去環球影城啊，嗰啲嘅樂園嗰度咧有幾個樂園黐住嘅，嗰條路好順嘅，咁就去玩。然之後老公咧有錢嘅男人咧就再直入呢一個嘅夢咩島嗰度咧就係玩啦。咁但係其實非常之，如果計個地理形勢咧係好好嘅。咁咧 你話嗰個我冇睇佢嗰個風水坐向啦，咁但係奈何咧就係日本人嘅文化，日本人嘅文化咧就係加上呢個疫情之後咧，令到佢哋係好大問題，因為佢哋投票嘅時候咧好多反對啦，咁跟住咧就唔知點樣啦，搞到好複雜啦，啲稅搞到咧即係Lawrence Ho 咧都覺得蝕唔起啊，即係點埋都埋單唔到，同埋咧其實澳門大家都知道，真正以前賺錢係靠咩啫？咪又係嗰啲貴賓廳咯，同埋一啲我哋講係月光之下嘅事情咯，即係唔係太陽之下嘅事情。但係日本咧，你點去做 VIP 啊？你又冇辦法同日本 local 嘅山口組社團同佢哋傾，你又冇辦法將黑錢變白錢。講緊以前嘅年代啊，你又冇辦法做點樣 VIP 係嘛？嗰啲貴賓廳你做唔到嗰啲咧，佢冇辦法開到一個頭，你純粹係酒店啊，純粹好似 Las Vegas 咁樣啊，玩1-2蚊美金咧，真係咁樣交稅法蝕死。咁所以到最後日本咧，其實就唔係咁成，但我相信咧，將來佢慢慢都會開始，但係佢唔會成功過新加坡或者菲律賓。新加坡咧比較得意，新加坡咧係嗰種好正面嘅資本主義。咩叫正面嘅資本主義咧？就係我有錢揾，我唔係踩到我最低嘅道德標準咧，我就會去馬㗎啦。佢唔會係日本咁多顧慮，咁多 barrier， 又民族主義啊，又民族尊嚴啊，然之後又點啊，又要鞠躬啊，又要成啊，都唔會咁多鬧教嘢。所以新加坡係一定會做得好，即係如果以正面嘅賭。咁菲律賓而家咧就係一個混亂嘅狀態。咁但係菲律賓咧，因為佢本身已經有好耐賭嘅歷史啦，咁同埋咧就佢嚟緊咧東南亞行8運啦，咁所以其實佢應該係會慢慢犀利。咁但係我個人咧就當然我唔會主張啦，因為其實我係一個唔賭錢嘅人嚟嘅，我係唔賭錢嘅人嚟嘅。點解咧？因為第一我知道我自己係冇呢一種嘅我哋嘅偏財，冇呢個偏財。第二咧，其實係啦，即係呢個唔係我嘅 talent 啦，我只能夠講，我又唔想得罪呢個行業，因為呢個行業係養起澳門嘅。澳門咧，有時啲人話：哇，澳門真係除咗賭乜都冇啊！係啊，真係乜都冇㗎。咁你叫佢點啫？佢咁細，佢冇自己嘅瀑布，冇自己嘅河流。冇瀑布河流咧，又冇礦產，咁即係話發唔到電啦。佢又冇乜農田喎，地又唔夠喎，即係水又唔多滴，電又唔多滴，菜又唔多條。你問佢有咩 bargaining power 啊？佢冇 bargaining power。所以咧，其實當一個行業能夠養起咁多人嘅時候咧，亦都可能係唯一一樣咯。咁當然啦，即係你話橫琴可唔可以發展中藥或者係？知識嗰方面咧，我覺得呢一樣我真係唔識講，即係其實早喺20幾年前咧已經開始有好多 proposal 關於 technology， 但係 so far 全部俾人 ban 啦，咁全部係全盤皆輸啦，即係 relate to knowledge 或者 technology， 可能我自己唔好啩，所以亦都因為咁樣我被逼。即係離開澳門，係啦，咁所以咧就自己嘢唔講啦。咁有趣啊，又係呢啲題外話嗱。如果大家咧就有研究下星象啦嚇，咁咧無論今年嗰個九宮飛星同埋今個月嘅九宮飛星，有一樣嘢你哋要好留意就係咧，好少可咧係兩個星搭埋一齊。今個月嘅東北位咧係啱咧，正財同偏財兩個星搭喺東北位，非常之好啊嚇。咁但係咧最差咧就係西邊，西邊咧有7赤嚇，最差嘅西邊同中部，所以我會見到咧美國咧7赤代表咩咧？係會有好多嘅爭鬥啊！咁所以應該咧過咗呢一日之後，出咗呢個結果之後咧，就會 唔使幾耐咧，會有好多嘅 argument 同埋有好多甚至乎小型嘅 protest 咧，全部喺美國走出嚟。大家要留意一個州特別係德州啊，係啦。咁所以咧就西邊美國完咗呢一度選舉咧，將會有一啲大問題嘅，好多嘅爭拗。咁而家我哋又睇翻呢度啦，睇翻呢度，見唔見到個 mouse？嗱，呢一度 House 21 Republicans 21 Democracy 5。嗱，頭先我哋吹下水，時間過得幾快？哎呀！你睇下我幾慘啊！因為咧，我咧就用咗個咪，我而家就唔用咪啦。唔好介意啊！你哋中意就繼續睇啦，覺得我好甩漏嘅就冇辦法啦。小女子真係唔同人哋咁成功啊！嗱，而家我用第二個架拆咗個咪，咁希望咧就會好啲。Got to look at the early count. We don't even have a percentage there because it's such a small number of votes. But that's what you're doing early on. You're just looking. 其實咧，我覺得橫倒咧好啲啊，但我又唔係好識喎，點解直播一定要我直倒咧？根本都唔同啱，都唔個比例唔啱嘅。嗱，而家你見到啦，講下咧 ，Republicans 咧已經係去到40啦，Senate 咁咧就 Democracy 依然係28喎。咁喺 President 呢個位置咧，嗱，見唔見到啊 ？Donald Trump 咧就已經係有530幾萬嘅 votes，Harris 咧就400幾。完全同我喺一個禮拜之前計出嚟話由5點鐘美國時間5點鐘開始咧，就會逆轉咧，係完全吻合嘅時間，完全吻合。5點至到7點美國時間咧，佢就會係嗱，而家 ET 嗰度咧就係7點半啦，7點半，仲有一個鐘頭時間。我哋如果咧仲肯睇我呢個頻道嘅人咧，真係好善良，簡直係童軍咁嘅款。我做得咁鬼甩流，做得咁鬼差，係因為我又唔想令到自己好辛苦。其實課我咧，而家我做呢啲頻道，其實我係課好似自己嘅筆記，係俾自己學習。但係你會見到 CNN 不斷咧，仲係喺度講緊咧，Camilla 好多好嘅嘢，係咪？咁但係點解我會揀 CNN 咧？因為其實佢從細大啦，佢個 app 啊各方面咧做得比較好嘅，即係個直播嗰方面。哎呀，呢個 stand 究竟點搞㗎？我真係唔係好識搞呢個 stand。Only by about 16,000 votes, still very early though, 3% of the vote in the state of Ohio. If you're a Democrat and you're looking at the map, 俄亥俄州 Florida 咧就54.2%。Rick Scott got elected by winning only about a 10,000 vote margin over his previous opponent back in 2018. Right now, he's 715,000 votes ahead of former Democratic Congressman. 其實咧，如果我冇記錯，7點鐘到咧，你已經係好明顯㗎啦，即係大比數拉㗎啦。咁啊，有人挑戰我啊，因為咧呢度好多白人咧係超級中意民主黨， 唔中意阿 Trump 嘅。咁所以咧有幾個都挑戰我話請我飲杯咖啡，我話同佢哋講5點至7點咧你就會睇到個逆轉㗎啦。咁啊睇下嗱，我又唔可以咁快做結論啊。Not
0.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris, as of this hour, has a 41,599 vote lead. That's with only an estimated 2% of the vote in from the big battleground of North Carolina, with its 16 electoral votes. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead with 60.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 38.9% of the vote. Donald Trump, as of this hour, with a 109,841 vote lead. That's with an estimated 9% of the vote in from that key battleground state of Georgia and its 16 electoral votes. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, Kamala Harris has 59.7% of the vote. Donald Trump, 38.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 105,065 vote lead. That's with an estimated 11% of the vote in from the Commonwealth of Virginia with its 13 electoral votes. We expect more votes to come in from key battlegrounds at any time, and we're going to soon get the first results from a third high-stakes presidential battleground, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Voting ends in the Commonwealth.
哇！呢個主持一定係好資深嘅重點人，即係好似TVB 嘅汪阿姐啊，成日影住佢。嗱，咁啊，到最後啦，有個 break 啦。如果唔係咧，大家都悶啦。嗱，去到2025年，我相信迪士尼，因為迪士尼嘅 mascot 係老鼠應該迪士尼應該有唔錯嘅發展。咁啊，其中一個 hint 點解咧？你見到香港周圍都係蛇，你就知啦。咩蛇咧？自己去研究啦嚇。咁我都係講嗰句啦。所謂嘅易經玄學咧，其實對於我嚟講，只係一個糅雜咗天文、地理同埋中醫。因為以前咧，我哋唔係用阿拉伯數字嘅，我哋亦都唔係用英文嘅，咁所以我哋喺記錄上面咧係會用易經嘅八卦嚟到去做 three dimension 嘅計數。咁咧如果你係好討厭易經，你覺得係迷信嘅話咧，其實我會咁睇啦。因為其實咧中醫咧就係源於易經嘅，因為咧就只有用易經嘅方法先至可以解釋到中醫上面咧大自然無論溫度、磁場點樣影響人。所以其實喺易經裏面咧，嗰個64裏面嘅組合咧，亦都係配合到我哋嘅 DNA 嘅。咁所以如果你係會睇中醫咧，你就會留意其實全部係源於易經嘅。咁所以咧就但係咧易經同呢一啲嘅數字啦，我哋叫統計學咧，其實並唔係所有，因為其實最重要咧。即係人存在咧，最重要就係同造物主嘅關係。咁而人嘅本性最緊要係道德啦、倫理啦同埋愛啦。你冇咗呢啲嘢咧，就算俾你好多錢都冇用。即係好似 Steve Jobs 臨走嘅時候咧，佢乜嘢都唔掛住蘋果，唔掛住公司，佢淨係好希望咧見翻自己嗰啲親人啊、仔女啊陪住喺身邊咁樣。咁所以其實咧就至高無上咧，就係我哋嘅造物主同埋我哋嘅倫理啦，同埋愛。咁易經只係一個去記錄我哋科技，即係用中國人嘅方法咧去科技，去我哋嘅計嘅數學同埋統計學啊，同埋我哋嘅 programming 咯。咁所以其實如果你問我咧，係咪佢真係代表住一切咧？並唔係。你睇下非洲、印度、外國、歐洲。冇易經冇風水㗎，咁人哋都係 run 得好好㗎，因為人哋有自己另外一套嘅計數方法啫嘛。咁所以咧就點解我會有興趣研究呢啲統計學咧？嗱，譬如話咧赤馬紅羊，或者我下次講一次啦。 揾一集講啦。其實赤馬紅羊咧，啲人一聽到就話哇迷信啊、神棍啊。其實赤馬紅羊嘅創立咧，我唔記得嗰個4個字啊，咩坤咩龜鑑啊，係啦，我揾一集講翻出嚟，記性唔好。其實係完全由一個唔識玄學、唔識易經，亦都唔識風水，係一個朝廷嘅官員，佢係咧歷史學家嚟嘅，佢係將以前歷史上面發生過嘅事做咗一個統計，發現一個週期。咁由於咧赤馬即係丙午，係啊丙咩咧？係啦。咁咧佢哋用嗰種嚟到計年份噶嘛，唔係嗰個年代唔係我哋2004咁樣計法噶嘛，咁所以佢就叫赤馬紅羊，其實計一個年份，其實赤馬紅羊咧係一個非常之科學嘅統計週期學嚟嘅，係一個完全唔識風水易經嘅人，佢只不過喺朝廷裡面咧係做歷史學家研究嘅啫。咁所以點解我亦都解釋點解我會就係話會有興趣研究，因為我係一個好中意研究週期嘅人嚟嘅，我係好中意研究人就係傳記，國家就係週期歷史同埋星象同埋地震呢啲嘢，我係好中意睇，即係我好白啦，佢講晒好八卦啦。咁所以咧，其實你話冇呢啲嘢咧，對於我哋咧，其實又唔係好大影響，即係好似非洲人啦、印度啊、歐洲咁樣。咁所以咧，就千祈大家唔好含糊咗，呢啲嘢咧係取替唔到一個正宗嘅信仰嘅，呢啲只不過係數據嚟嘅啫。不出20年之後咧，大家就會更加睇到咧點樣用呢啲數據咧可以計到更加dynamic嘅數學。好啦，到最後啦，臨山之前啦，House Republican 嗰度就已經咧去到25席啦，咁Democracy 係7席，咁Senate 咁就係40 Republicans， 咁咧就 Democracy 得29，咁而家咧去到呢一個嘅距離 President 270 to win， 咁 Donald Trump 有23 ，Harris 咧得3。咁今次我嘅直播咧，我 conclusion 就係我想睇下自己喺一個禮拜之前講，我計由5點至7點係咪真係一個決定性嘅時間？咁而家咧，如無突發事件咧，就應該係我計嘅時間係啱啦。咁但係咧就因為聽日就已經立冬啦。而且我講過咧，頭先講過咧，今年同埋呢個月嘅九宮飛星西邊係會唇槍舌劍、刀刀劍劍，所以應該 Kamala 嘅支持者咧會 fight back， 所以呢個月美國會係好混亂㗎啦。咁睇埋呢段啊，難得我做直播，唔知你哋聽唔聽到我所講嘅嘢咧？我講得好細聲啊，似乎我收音唔好。冇辦法啦，我喺 YouTube 裏面咧，其實又冇人 share， 又冇人 like， 又揾唔到咩資源嘅，咁純粹係幫我自己學習，所以器材少啲啊。
Harris campaign is watching Pennsylvania closer than any other state. They are looking to Philadelphia in particular, what they believe is higher turnout than the 2020 levels for Joe Biden. They're looking at a couple of key precincts in Philadelphia. But if that were to be the case, if the vice president is to have a strong performance in Pennsylvania, she must do well in Philadelphia. Abby, as you well know, she closed out her campaign last night in Philadelphia with that big rally on the Rocky Steps.
你會睇到人性啊，因為咧可能咧見到咧 Donald Trump 咧曾經係咁戲劇性，即係譬如佢打倒咗咁大家都以為必贏嘅希拉里，又突然間輸咗俾拜登，所以咧突然間美國人醒覺咧就係凡事冇絕對。其實早1-2日之前咧，民主黨裏邊已經咧有好多牆頭草嘅，因為佢哋開始 feel 到咧嗰個 Donald Trump 嘅勢好勁，跟住有啲人咧佢開始咧突然間反轉啊，真係唔要面喎！反轉咧就係特別嗰啲評論啊、經濟嗰啲，佢話 我都係反
Yeah,
轉咧，
thanks,
即
Jake. We're here at
係
the
我話
convention center
我
where
觀
Donald
察
Trump
咧，我
is
而家都
hosting
係支持
his
Donald
election
Trump
night
啊，我
party
又
out
唔
with
支
CNN
持
Kristen
民主
Holmes.
黨啦。
And
然之後咧，
Philadelphia
民主
and
黨內
Pennsylvania
部嗰啲咧，
overall
可能
obviously has
想
been a
保住
key
自己
focus
份
for them.
光啩。
But
突
after
然之
Donald
間
Trump
咧又
and
話
the Puerto
係
Rican
啦，拜
remark
登講錯
fallout
嘢
from
啦，
his
即係
rally
點
in
點點，即
Madison
係
Square Garden,
互
they
相
were
指責
particularly
喎。
worried
即係
because
其實
there
咧，
are
未
Puerto
到
Rican
今日咧，早
strongholds
兩日
in
之前咧，
Pennsylvania.
即係已經有好多牆頭草啊。咁所以咧就好睇到呢啲人性啊。
focuses around some internal drama, which was that essentially after that comedian took the stage and made that joke, there was a lot of finger pointing as to who was to blame, who brought him on stage, who did not vet him. Now, internally, I am told that they have been circulating polls about Puerto Rican voters, even showing them to the former president, who was asked at multiple times, did this hurt my campaign? Is this going to hurt me with Puerto Rican
而家咧
voters?
Florida 嗰
He
度
was
咧已
worried
經
about it.
係
He was worried.
接
He
近
was
8
watching
點
the
啦。
news as he often does.
咁即係
and
美國
seeing
時
the
間
reports
咧
that
就
Puerto Ricans were
應
saying
該
that
過
they
咗
were
7 點
offended
啦。
by it, that they weren't going to vote for him. And of course, this is particularly important in Pennsylvania, given the fact that there are so many Puerto Rican voters. And one thing, Caitlin, it's not just Pennsylvania. Across all of these swing states, there are large swaths of Puerto Rican voters. So whether it's not it's self-preservation because these people want to show that they didn't impact the Puerto Rican vote, or it's because they actually think it could impact him in the long term, they're watching those numbers very carefully.
Yeah, and when the margins matter, something like that certainly can. Kristen Holmes, thank you for that. Jake, obviously something the Trump campaign is watching very closely from down here in South Florida behind the scenes.
All right, Caitlin, thanks so much. Let's go to David Chang now, who has some new exit polling. David,
仲有
what are
啲
you
咩
learning
吹
about
水嘢可以同
voters
大
in the
家
Commonwealth
分
of
享下
Pennsylvania?
咧？
In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, democracy is the number one issue for voters. Take a look, 33% of Pennsylvania voters say democracy is the most important issue. The economy's right up there, Jake, with 30%, then abortion at 15, immigration at 12. Speaking of abortion, we asked, do you think it should be mostly legal or illegal? 64% of Pennsylvania voters, nearly two-thirds, say it should be legal. 30% say illegal. We also
所以我
asked
早
for a
兩
view
日
on
咧
fracking
就
in
講咧，
Pennsylvania. You want to
當
understand why Kamala
New
Harris
York
changed her
因為
position on this?
Planet Squirrel 呢件事之後咧，佢一開始咧，即係骨牌效應一冧咧，佢嘅東風嘅勢就全部都冧㗎啦。
A tick higher than we saw nationally. 43% of Pennsylvania voters in this election tell us they approve of Biden's job performance.
如果你問到
56%
我係咪
disapprove.
純粹
All right, David
呢
Chang,
啲
thanks
所
so
謂嘅
much.
風
And
水可
Chris,
以影響
at
咧，
least
其
just
實
based on this exit poll, a slightly better terrain
at the
in
end of the day 咧
Pennsylvania
個
for
conclusion 我覺
Kamala
得唔
Harris
係，
with
我覺得
democracy as the number one
conclusion
issue,
偏
33%
要
as
揀
opposed to
邊個
economy
咧，
at
其實係有
30%,
原因。
a strong majority
我其中一
supporting
個相信就
legal
係美國咧，
abortion.
我哋睇到將來發生嘅一啲事咧，應該
I
係
think it's night and day.
其實
I mean, as compared to Georgia and North Carolina,
Donald Trump
48%
同
of people
Camilla
in Pennsylvania
嘅
said
在
either
任咧，都
abortion or
唔係因為
democracy
佢哋
was
可
the
以
most
解決到
important issue.
美國未來
Seems like a
呢
very different
4
climate
年嘅問
than
題。
North Carolina and Georgia,
但
and
係
that's the
Donald
point.
Trump
She
可
doesn't have
能
to
會
win
係
all
夠
the states
韌
that
力
Joe
去
Biden
堅
won.
持
She
落去，
just
因為
needs to win
Donald
enough
Trump
to
咧
get
佢
to
曾經
270,
係破
and
過
the blue
產啦，
wall and the
即係
blue
曾經
dot
係一
on
無所有啦。
Nebraska is enough.
特別佢又經歷過2次俾人暗殺啦。自從佢第一次俾人暗殺之後咧，你發覺佢成個樣同埋眼神係變晒嘅。咁一個咧曾經係一無所有，見盡人情冷暖，然之後咧高高低低，跟住咧仲經歷過死亡邊緣咧。其實如果面對一啲好大嘅事情嘅時候，可能佢嘅能力會比較夠咯。咁當然 Harris 係一個絕對非常之好優秀嘅人才，好好嘅。咁但係如果係面對未來美國喺呢幾十年嚟最大嘅危機咧，可能 Harris 未唔夠 Donald Trump 咁韌啊，係啦咁韌，因為有時啲嘢唔係話你叻與唔叻，而係邊個鬥長命，即係捱得到最後。咁所以我覺得天意咧就係並唔係話好與唔好，而係可能係咯，可能 Trump 就係夠呢個韌力啦。好啦，過咗2分鐘咧，啱啱過1個鐘頭係我第一次直播，好甩流嘅直播，但係我覺得做呢啲直播好過我講自己嘅嘢啦。咁而家咧就去到未最後一刻都未咁肯定啊！可能我調翻轉頭要請翻啲人飲咖啡。 但係而家咁睇個勢咧，
We have moved to Philadelphia. This is the warehouse where all of the counting is happening. This is where the action is. And we've just learned from a source close to the counting process inside that Philadelphia will be posting, when it posts its first votes at 8:01 p.m., they will be posting just over 110,000 ballots. These are mail ballots. This is the long-awaited first batch of mail ballots to be posted, and it represents, I'm told by this source, more than 50% of all mail ballots that they have received. This also, for context, puts Philadelphia well ahead of the pace, their counting pace from 2020, which we've all become so familiar with. But this is a big moment.
嗱，而家你見到咧有唔同嘅票站啊，咁咧佢不斷喺度計緊咧，有啲時間咧可能就係已經 close 㗎啦，啊！我唔敢肯定佢應該係8點 close。
From Philadelphia. It's a start, but it's a better start than we've seen before. Pamela Brown is at the voting desk. And Pamela, with the spotlight on Pennsylvania right now, what are you looking for in the context of those numbers that Kate just shared with us?
So you have the early votes that are about to be reported shortly after 8 o'clock, and then you have the overall turnout. And sources I'm speaking with there in Pennsylvania and on the ground in Philly say that turnout in Philadelphia and some other places across the Commonwealth have exceeded expectations. So let's talk about that Democratic stronghold of Philadelphia and what I'm being told there. An official there tells me at Temple University, the line was around the block today. I'm told they had to bring in extra machines to tabulate the votes. 6 total compared to the 2 that is typical for this official. The Philly official also tells me, well, they don't have an exact number for voter turnout today. They just don't have that data right now. That turnout has certainly exceeded expectations. Two sources at the state and local level in Philly tell me that's had to be replenished today in several polling places there in this Democratic stronghold. Overall, one state source speaking to election officials in Philly said it seems the turnout there was, quote, quite high and seems through the roof.
即係佢出年咧係差唔多壓上佢人生嘅一個計劃，咁所以咧佢點解咁大力支持啊？傾家蕩產派錢咧，其實佢唔係錢嘅問題嘅，佢用呢種奇招咧，佢而家係有司法審核嘅，因為咁啱踩咗一個灰色地帶，究竟係咪買票或者賄選？但係佢唔理喎，加上咧星期六嗰日咧，連續幾日你見到佢咧半夜真係冇瞓喎，半夜3點幾搏命發文咧去撐啊 Donald Trump。 你可想而知佢係幾咁緊張啦。咁啊，因為如果咧Elon Musk 要繼續有一啲嘅計劃係可行嘅話咧，首先第一樣嘢咧，佢一定要係同政府同聲同氣。咁啊，過去呢幾年民主黨咧，似乎罰Elon Musk 錢都罰得好勁，同埋咧都俾一啲阻攔佢啊。 雖然未去到聽證會，第二就係咧，自從咧呢一個嘅由丘吉爾嘅年代，即係咧開始咧就。 由開始羅茲威爾呢啲咁嘅事情出現之後咧，就51區啦，後期就51區啦，之前就唔係嘅，咁就慢慢地啦嚇，由今時今日變成咧美國政府咧冇辦法去控制外星人咧去披露事件，因為其實咧佢已經變成一個私人機構，係啦，咁所以咧，如果 Donald Trump 上場，我相信佢會用佢自己最大嘅權力咧，去逼呢一個嘅51區或者呢一啲已經係資金完全由私人機構資助嘅關於非地球科技咧，佢要迫使呢個部門去揭露更多嘅內容，因為咧當年點解有傳聞點解列根會死咧？就係列根佢覺得咧，哇唔掂喎，即係連政府都冇辦法監控呢一個51區，而且咧佢仲發展好多軍工企業，而呢個軍工企業嘅發展係完全開始唔受政府監控，所以列根就強勢話一定要咧去披露呢啲消息，咁啊結果俾人病掛咗啦。 嚇！呢一啲就係未有證據嘅顯示嚟嘅。咁但係我見到咧，如果 Trump 上場咧，佢一個經歷過2次死，可能出年仲有一次啦。 嘅人咧，佢都已經唔怕去大你啦，咁所以佢一定會用佢嘅能力咧，要去披露呢啲嘅科技，亦都要咧阻止咧由私人企業去控制呢個美國軍工企業。咁你要將呢啲嘢透明咗之後咧，Elon Musk先有運行咯。因為而家好明顯咧，應該係有另外一個科技勢力咧，就係同 Elon Musk 係對着幹嘅。係啦，咁呢啲唔係淨係錢嘅問題啦。如果唔怕悶，就可以之前聽翻我幾條片之前。好，仲有1分鐘，我就會停止呢個直播啦。無論我估得啱唔啱都好啦，咁對於我嚟講都係人生一個學習嘅機會嘅。其實係幾有趣、幾過癮嘅。真係唔知道將來亞洲邊個國家可以有咁刺激，可能暫時係得台灣啦。台灣係有咁刺激嘅，但係睇下點啦。即係有啲人係認同，有啲人唔認同，因為唔認同嘅，因為佢覺得咁樣咧係太燒錢，即係呢種選舉嘅燒錢燒到咧，即係人民都冇得食，但係就哇呢就係為咗選舉咁樣。但係有啲人就覺得應該要有嘅，因為自由係勝過一切嘅咁樣。咁我相信而家暫時喺亞洲區咧比較能夠同美國接近有呢一種選舉嘅 style 咧，真係我估係應該係得台灣嘅，係咪？唔知大家認唔認同啊？我覺得咧，我係創咗好多我個人嘅歷史。第一次做直播係到達1個鐘頭，咁甩流。第二次就係、第二樣就係、我相信冇一個直播咧係完全冇一個人喺現場睇。我而家見到咧係全部零，全部零。咁唔緊要啊，呢一個可能係好多年之後。
16 states and the District of Columbia, the biggest round of poll closings all night. A whopping 171 electoral votes at stake, including 19 in Pennsylvania.
16 states 係啦。我相信我係唯一一個人咧做直播咧係冇人喺度睇緊。
Will win the state of Florida with its 30 electoral votes, as expected. Donald Trump, CNN projects, will win the state of Tennessee, as expected, with its 11 electoral votes. Missouri will go to Donald Trump. Missouri, as expected, will give Donald Trump 10 electoral votes. Here are 2 more projections for Trump. Alabama, CNN can project, will go to Donald Trump with its 9 electoral votes. And Oklahoma, CNN projects, will go to Donald Trump with its 7 electoral votes.
啱一個鐘頭，啱一個鐘頭。
CNN projects that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, with its 11 electoral votes, as expected, will go to Kamala Harris. CNN can project that Maryland, as expected, with its 10 electoral votes, will go to Kamala Harris.
See you next
and
time.
CNN can
Bye-bye.
project that the District of Columbia, with its 3 electoral votes, can go to Kamala Harris. Here are the states where the polls just closed, where we are not prepared to make a projection. They include Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. No projection in any of those states. Here is the electoral vote count at this hour. Donald Trump has 90 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 27 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. Neither of them has approached that number yet. Key race alert for you now in the big battlegrounds. North Carolina, Kamala Harris is in the lead there with 51.8% of the vote. Donald Trump has 47.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris with an 11,000 plus vote lead. That's with only 5% of the estimated vote count. It's still a lot of votes.